Okay, so today I want to talk a little bit about, I guess my medical journey. It's been very complicated these last few years. And you know what? I'm psychic. I should have known a lot of these things. I understand that, but that's not how psychics work. It's not just because we're psychic doesn't mean we know everything. It's not the way it works. And I'll probably get into that sometime, so at some point, because people have this thoughts about what psychics can do and can't do and should do, shouldn't do. But it's complicated. It's complicated. So anyway, my medical journey has been really crazy because I started getting sick in like 2018, and it was a bunch of different things that caused it. One was a B12 deficiency, which was years. It was years that I was deficient in B12. And I didn't get my records until 2021, where it showed that between, say, 2015 to 2021, my doctor only checked my B12 levels like 4 times. And each time they were only at like 150. And I'm not sure what they need to be at, over 450, I think is the number. So that B12 deficiency caused me to have nerve damage, because B12 keeps your nerves intact. And with the nerve not being intact, it doesn't do anything to the muscle. So my muscles atrophied. So head to toe, nerve damage and muscle atrophy. So my eyes are included. And another thing that caused me to get really sick was it's FND, functional neurological disorder. That is from years of abuse. I spent years being mistreated, and it starts when I was a child, and that's all I knew. So I just kept living that way with other people who did it to me, different ways, but they're all narcissists. So there's a lot of complicated things going on with what happens with FND. It affects your brain and how your brain processes your entire body. So for years I tremored, and I do have videos posted of what I look like. My hand stopped working for about a year and a half, I think. They stopped working. They actually kind of fanned out, and I couldn't do anything, and cooking was impossible because I would drop everything. My brain I was forgetting things too. I was forgetting to cooking eggs and toast, and I would forget where I used to cater. So it was really weird. Everything was weird, but it's all brain being damaged in a way from abuse. I don't know all of it. Like, I don't know exactly why that happens. I haven't really researched it much. I'm sure that I will, because I want to talk to people about what FND is and how they can recognize it in themselves, that they have FND going on, that's making their body tremor and forgetful and brain fog and not being able to walk and all of that. But I had double. I had B12 deficiency that affected all my nerves and muscles, and then FND, which affects your brain, which affects your nerves and muscles as well. So I was basically in 2021. I figured out, being psychic, maybe I heard about a lady who had written an article, and I went and I researched that online. I heard about it, and I went and researched it, and I found the article instantly, and it said my hands fanned out and I got my running legs back, and I recognized the whole article as if I wrote it. So then I told my doctor the next day. I showed him the B12 part of that article, and he literally said, "Holy shit, you need B12 shots." Years later, years too late. So, my body's kind of, it's affected probably the rest of my life because of that. I hope not. But by then, when the muscle is damaged, even my left eye, was damaged. It was so damaged I had to keep it shut. I'd sit there and look at people and talk to them like this, because I would see double everything, and also blurry, and also where things would go towards not only straight and double, but also to the left and be doubled. So, I can't drive because of that. I can look at people now. They're still double, but they're closer together. It's pretty crazy, kind of cool. But I'm going to have some testing done on that too, because in 2023 I had some testing done. It's called the VEP, Visual Evoked Potential Test, and I had them do it once, and then wait a month, and I did it again because I wanted to make sure that the tests were accurate, you know, and they were the same. My left eye was like, no, the nerve and the muscle, you know, gone in my left eye. The signal between my eye and my brain was so damaged it was not there anymore. My right eye was about 50% gone. But in July here of 2026, I started being able to see out of my left eye again. Yeah, and I had done years of eye and brain therapy and therapies to help with these conditions that I had. And doctors are idiots. They talk about FND like they talk about my vision. Oh, well, you have FND, so you're, you don't use your muscles, so your muscles die with FND, which is true, but my eye muscles don't die because of FND. My bladder doesn't die. My hands shouldn't have not worked anymore because of FND. So they pigeonhole you into this FND diagnosis, and it's just dumb. Doctors are dumb. They're humans, and they don't care. They think they know everything. The ones I've dealt with. I've had my doctor now, he's I like him a lot. But it's hard. They don't really understand everything. And I live it. So I try to figure out as much as I can and help myself. And sometimes these doctors, they could do a test only because I told them, please do this test, which was a small fiber neuropathy test, which I have. I was tested positive for that. With a biopsy, they said, yes, you have small fiber neuropathy. And that is from the nerve damage. And that affects, the small fibers are your heart, lungs, intestines, I guess everything. I don't really know. So eating and swallowing was very tricky, which is part of FND and also part of small fiber neuropathy. So I've had a lot happen, and I really want to talk about it all so that people can understand not only what I went through and what I'm going through, but to recognize it in themselves and maybe get the help that they need if they have the same symptoms. Because FND, I didn't hear about it until 2023. And then I did therapy with that, and then it helped. It helped some. But then they said, well, you should be golfing again because you had FND therapy. No, it doesn't work that way. Not for me, not with the B12 deficiency and the muscle damage and balance. I haven't had balance. I was in a wheelchair. I was anytime I would go anywhere, I was in a wheelchair. And that was only to like the doctor. And then I'd be in pain for like 3 days after being in the car or the doctor for just an hour or two. And now I'm almost running around. I'm really quick. I could do things really quickly, and I'm active as much as I can. I don't have the leg pain that I did. The burning, there's a lot of burning with the FND and the nerve damage. A lot of burning, and like I wanted to chop my legs off, and I felt like I had sparklers under my skin, and clothes hurt me, and people touching me hurts. And in July, for some reason this year, I started healing everything, started getting so much better. And I think I had to tell my brain a lot of things. I had to tell my brain to that it was okay. I had to do a lot of things. There was like 8 things I had to do, which I'll get into all that too, so at some point. But here I am walking, cooking, cleaning. Mayo Clinic diagnosed me with a lot of things in 2020. One of them is called ME/CFS, which is myalgic encephalomyelitis and chronic fatigue syndrome, which the ME part is your brain. Central sensitization is also what they diagnosed me with, which is, it's kind of like things, I'm real sensitive around chemicals and like bleach. I can't breathe. I can't touch Purell. There's a lot to that, I guess. Coughing. I coughed and I coughed and I coughed for about 2 years until I figured out what triggered it, which is like air, blowing air, hot air, cold air, like I said, the Purell will trigger my cough. Going out in the cold, if I breathe it in, or a fan blowing on me will trigger the cough. Perfumes. I think that's the central sensitization part. And I don't know if that's caused from the B12 deficiency, like the nerve damage. I'm not really sure. I think I'm going to do a little more research and think about that a little bit more. But I go to like websites like NIH and NHS. Those are medical websites, which are they're the most accurate ones out there. It's not like Mayo Clinic or Google. It's like legit medical websites. And you know, I had a bad reaction to the shingles vaccine in 2024, I think it was. And I had all the symptoms of Guillain-Barré, which is deadly. If you have that, that's, you know, my breathing was affected. My breathing was already affected, but to have that shingles vaccine trigger it to be worse, I went to the hospital and they said, oh, you have FND. No, that's not what it was. So yeah, I don't really trust doctors as much. I haven't in a very long time because, you know, they're human, but they're limited. They limit themselves. Doctors limit themselves on how to help people. And then they just say, here's what you need to do. And they put it on the patient. And if the patient doesn't do it, well then, too bad, the patient didn't listen. Yeah, so I've learned a lot because I've been to doctors, more doctors in the last, 2018. So, 8 years of doctors. My doctor from 2018 to 2021, I was in his office weekly because I was getting worse and worse, and I had to write everything down so he would understand what was going on. And he still never figured out that it was the B12 deficiency. Never. Idiot, small town, Gaylord doctor. Yeah, Gaylord. So anyway, I think this video is long enough. I'll be doing a lot more. I'll do, break it down a little bit more as I go, but I think this was pretty important because it's a lot of details that I'm dealing with, and I want to help people. I want to not just tell my story, but help people with what I'm able to say, or have them recognize, like, maybe this is what's happening with them. FND is abuse, and if you're being abused, sorry, my glasses are the glare. Being abused is terrible. It affects people in more ways than just hurting at that moment. I was abused my entire childhood. From many different people, and nobody helped me. Nobody, not the school, nobody, not a neighbor, not a family member. It's terrible. And then, being controlled and being with narcissists and things like that. But yeah, I should have, stopped it. But I just didn't know how. I didn't have that capability. And then as I was with somebody who was abusing me, I was getting sicker. And that's probably the worst part of it, is because not only did it affect me more, but I began to rely on them to help me, which I shouldn't have done. I should not have trusted. There wasn't really trust, but it was like I was like stuck. So you can watch my videos. You can see the way that my body was physically, and then you can also hear the audios of the abuser. Yeah. So I hope to help people. No one helped me, but so I want to help people with that. With everything that I can. Yeah. So I'll be doing a lot of videos and posts and doing meetings. People want meetings with me because I'm psychic and stuff, which is great too. The way that I connect for people and help them, and the accuracy that I have is pretty incredible, I think. And since July, it's even more, even since I started getting better physically and being able to see, and because I changed, like I said, 8 things I had to change in my life. And I'll get into all of that, but one of them was forgiving the abusers. That was big. That was hard. because I was revenge seeking. I was angry. I was bitter. I was just pissed off because of what they did and how they affected me. And I had to forgive them to help myself. And in the way that I want to help people, other people now, I wanted to help the abusers because they needed it. And forgiving was the only way that I could help them. And I did that. It's still kind of hard to think about, I guess. But doing those things help change me, help me get better. And I hope that people understand. And like I said, I'll have videos about everything, about the B12 deficiency, the FND, the abuse, the recovery, the forgiving, because that was the biggest catalyst for me, was the forgiving. So, anyways,